Hi guys, Chess Learning for Life here, back with another video. So today we're looking at one of my rapid games again. So let's dive right into it. I'm playing a 2300 rated chess.com opponent. I'm playing the black pieces, and this game starts off with a Winawer. I like playing against e4 players because I trust my French more than some d4, d5 stuff and those boring kind of stuff. I don't like playing those uh, positional style play because as black, playing d4, d5 is basically just a whole game of suffer, and it's very hard to equalize playing against d4. So yeah, just my opinion, I like playing against e4 because of my trusty French. And this Winawer, it goes down the main line. If you haven't checked it out, make sure to check the Winawer video. Link is in the top right corner, should be right here right now. So yep, all the main line. And here, if you saw the video, I was talking about how bishop d7 was more combative than knight bc6, because it just takes advantage if white doesn't know to play rook b1 or queen d3, and instead plays h4, then bishop b5, and black already is equalizing right here. And here he's played h5, which, yep, he is continuing his plan. This h-pawn is like the whole asset of white in this opening, because you took these two pawns and now this pawn is a passed pawn, so pushing it, why not? Here, more development, and because of some tactical reasons and really some dynamic reasons, you can long castle here, because you can just give up this f7 pawn, because there's bishop takes, and if bishop takes, then knight d4 comes with an attack on this c2 pawn while also defending this e6 pawn. So right here, if white was thinking about an in-between move, queen e6 check, then actually after king b8, and you can't take with the king, you have to take with the bishop, then knight d4, and voila, there's a fork right here. A fork into another fork. So white, of course, cannot take on e6. But here, knight d4, bishop d3 defending. But now I activate my rook like this. And here I made a little mistake, which is just going knight ef5. This is too thematic. This is not playing to the position, but just like the opening ideas of, the ideas of this opening. But instead, in this position, because the bishop took instead of the king, then here rook takes g2 was actually fine. I did see this move in this game, but I was scared of maybe h7 and then rook h8, and then maybe I'll get into some trouble. This rook is locked. This rook cannot come back to the back rank to help, and this rook might get trapped, but it still has g7. So I just didn't like this, but computer says it's definitely fine. White is not promoting anytime soon, and this rook is very invasive. You can already capture on c2 anytime soon and plant the other knight to f5. So that's how you should play it, but when knight ef5, which allows h7, rook h8, and now I cannot take on g2, so he may have some g4 ideas. So here he went for rook h3, stopping the fork, but then there's this disgusting engine line. Let's see if you can find the winning move for white in this position. Pause video. So the winning move is actually queen g6. Now, what is the idea behind this? So as you see later in the game, I went rook f7 and captured his pawn. So basically what queen g6 does is it stops rook f7 and proves this pawn to be invasive and just paralyzes black's rooks. Black's rooks can't do anything. The queen can't really do anything. And if queen f7, then a trade definitely helps black because, I mean white helps white because white still has g4 because I didn't take that pawn. So why cannot I go rook f7? Because just a simple queen g8 check I cannot take because he takes and promote. So only move really is rook f8. But then he gets 2 rooks for the queen, but also a very dominating position. Knight is forced to come back. And then after bishop e3, and maybe the king goes somewhere, f2 or castles. I don't know. Even your king can stay in the center and rook b1 can activate this rook. These bishops are very strong. Knight is forced back. And now a g4 f5 plan is already very strong. And black's pieces are just paralyzed in, yeah, this little structure right here. So that's the winning line for white, which my opponent didn't see. Instead, he went for rook h3, and still here black is not winning. It's just equal because black could win back the h7 pawn. And here he went queen g6, a move too late because now I just take the pawn. And here he made a really serious blunder, which is a trade. Now, the point of this trade, from the perspective of my opponent, is that I cannot take back the knight because of queen takes e6 check. So I have to take with the pawn, but now he gets a protected passed pawn right here, which he thinks is very strong. In other cases, it may be strong, but in this case, my pieces are just too active. And now after takes, because he has to stop the fork, but now after here, I can just take the rook and get my other rook into the game. Now look at these pieces. What is it doing here? My rook is very active. My queen can maybe go c4 or h7 later. It's just very strong position for me. Here the best way to play is actually to trade on h7. Now I can't take with the rook because of queen g8 check. So I have to take with the queen. You trade everything and go king f2, because this bishop is actually a very important piece to defending this position. Because if you compare it to bishop takes e takes, takes, and king f2, the c2 pawn is just lost because there's no bishop on d3. And maybe after something like rook a2, knight drops back, knight may drop back to this beautiful e6 square, stop this pawn stops this pawn, and I just have a huge majority, 2 connected passed pawns on the c and d files, and this should be enough to win. But instead, he played something even worse after his blunder, which is not trading the rooks. Which now, after I take twice right here, I'm just threatening some nasty rook checks. See, rook h1 would be checkmate, queen block, I take. So he has to do something about it, which he plays bishop e3. Thinking, oh, maybe, just maybe I could survive with rook h1, bishop g1. And then if knight to f3, put pressure on a pinned piece, then maybe I would be thinking about king e2, although there would be queen c4, but then the knight is hanging. So maybe I would be thinking, yeah, this position, if I give a check, bishop g1, then maybe everything's fine for white. Now here, I played a very fancy move, which is actually just going for rook h1 check. But there's really no problem with rook takes e3 because everything is defended. So I went for this fancy move because I saw this follow-up, queen h7. Now white cannot take because rook takes g1 checkmate. So white goes back, but then here a very nice combination. Now you can start off two different ways. You can play queen h5 check. If the king comes here, then rook takes g1, force the queen away, checkmate. And if the king comes here, then rook takes and a fort. But here I just went rook takes g1, queen takes, queen h5, and my opponent resigned. So a very nice game showcasing how this Winawer poison pawn variation, my opening repertoire, this could be played. I really recommend it to all of you guys. Try and play the French defense. It's very combative, makes the game very interesting. Yeah, I just started punishing my opponent's mistakes right here. Like in this position, I was already like really better, and I just missed rook takes g2. But then all in all, white's winning path is very hard to find. So yeah, after a few more mistakes and blunders from my opponent, I was able to activate my pieces, and then this just showcases how the Winawer variation is very powerful, a very powerful weapon with black. And yeah, I hope you find this video educational. Make sure to like and subscribe. Stay tuned for more chess content, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.